Good evening. Avengers Spotlight 31 featuring U.S.Agent plus Hawkeye. We have a dreadful cover here. Absolutely dreadful. Dreadfully great. It's one of the all-time U.S.Agent covers. Even though he is the cover feature, U.S.Agent is Story B, with the first one being a continuation of the Hawkeye one began in the previous issue. Although you could be fooled, because our first page features Hawkeye playing dress up and U.S.Agent walking in on him. For ages, I'm not joking here, I was remembering this as Hawkeye in drag. The white collar looked so much like a pearl necklace, and I thought he was playing like a dowdy lesbian, complete with a moustache. U.S.Agent thinks that it is an intruder and beats him up. Hawkeye is working on a disguise to go undercover with the Stone Perfs, the LA gang that he has had it out for ever since he witnessed their callous disregard for innocent people last issue. Also, he got drilled by them. That sounds too much like a sex thing. He got blasted by them. Still sounds like a gay sex thing. He got pistol raped by them. That's better. Like with the first part, I love that we are still incorporating the Avengers. We've got Mockingbird in a bikini here. What more does a Hawkeye story need? Less ripping off of Arrow, ideally. There is some more gang violence. Another drive-by shooting. The Stone Perfs trying to take care of the kid who helped Hawkeye after he was shot. The kid survives, but his mum is caught in the gunfire. Although we don't see the shooters, maybe the gang dropped off the threatening message, the note. Maybe that was them. But this might have been the elf with a gun having upgraded to automatic weaponry. I feel that is like the sort of cop-out joke ending we could have gotten. That Hawkeye deals with the gang and they're put away for life and the family are safe again, but then the elf with a gun shows up on the kid's doorstep anyway. Right, so we have the whole superheroes cannot deal with this problem thing. And that debate isn't covered well enough. We don't have an explanation here for why they cannot. The comic maybe trusts you to know the talking points. But when you have a page here of Mockingbird saying superheroes cannot get involved with this type of thing, or that they cannot do anything about it, it feels like we are looking in on an alternate world where there is actually like a rule that they will all drop dead if one of them tries to interfere with urban crime. To flip the script, wouldn't it also make sense that the gang would not want to have a vendetta with an Avenger? The team at this point should fucking scare them shitless. What are their guns going to do against Iron Man or Wonder Man? I suppose you can at least say that speaks to their arrogance or their lawlessness. But the Stone Perfs should also be thinking to themselves, to not get involved in superhero shit or in antagonising a superhero. At first I thought this was Hawkeye in his disguise. That is the magic of the Al Milburn and Boss Eck art. The dialogue establishes quick that this is one of the gangbangers from last issue, the one Hawkeye caught, and Lady Lotus's lawyers have gotten him off. Then Hawkeye begins to see that kid's mum in hospital. He was never one to have good ideas, but it's even funnier that he is in his dorky padded suit. If you think that I'm being unfair to Hawkeye's intelligence or capability, well, he looks out in finding the exact van used in the shooting, and he can't even do a chase without falling on his face, almost literally falling on his face. Maybe when Mockingbird was saying that there's nothing he can do about the gangs, maybe she wasn't talking about the superhero thing. She was meaning to say Hawkeye can't do anything about it because Hawkeye is too dumb. Some people act as if the stupidest thing Hawkeye has ever done is wear a skirt, but my God, the man frequently has bad ideas and unbelievable levels of incompetence. That is where maybe the story again touches on the idea that Hawkeye isn't Ara. He falls for like the most basic plain possum trick here, and he's only saved by the guy being shot by someone else. End of this part. Weak cliffhanger. And now it is time for U.S.Agent. This is written by Fabian Nicieza, and it has basically a rerun of the cover here. This is a 4-part serial. I think it's 4 parts. It's called The Xenophobic Man. No, U.S.Agent isn't the titular xenophobic man. I think this pairing of Hawkeye's gang war and U.S.Agent's story is the finest balance this series ever hits. They are 2 stories that tonally work together, and I see enough crossover in the people who would be buying it for one-off. Avengers Spotlight, nee solo Avengers, existed in part because Hawkeye was popular, and a Hawkeye series was in some demand. My biggest problem with this series is that it's half a Hawkeye book, and then half a book people who want a Hawkeye series don't want. There are very few people who want a perfunctory, dopey Hawkeye story by Tom Falcon or Bob Patrick Harris, and then a piss-poor pretentious 3-part Moongarden serial by Peter Gilbert. More so when Moongarden doesn't even rape any men in that story. I think split features, ideally, have to both be appealing to the same person. A Hawkeye fan is going to be annoyed too much that they are paying for only half a comic. There's a good chance they're not even going to read Dr. Droom's story. Hawkeye and Scarlett Johansson, that was a very naturable and very sensible split. I mean, the problem always boils down to double features being more fondly remembered than they are a well thought out idea for contemporary audiences. The Acts of Vegans issues are, again, another good use of the book. We get a full Hawkeye story in those that are a team up with Iron Man. Hawkeye team up as a concept would have been leagues better than a split book, but I know I am going to talk at length in future parts all about Avengers Spotlight and its wasted premise and potential. I think Hawkeye and U.S.Agent works. If you like Hawkeye, you're probably reading West Coast Avengers. You know who U.S.Agent is. Maybe you don't like him, but you at least understand you've got half a Hawkeye book and half a U.S.Agent book. It's less scattershot. And maybe a Hawkeye fan would read this down to knowing the guy from the concurrent West Coast series, or even because he appeared in the first half, and maybe Hawkeye might appear in this. He doesn't. Our story is about a bad man who murders people sneaking across the border. And the best thing is that U.S.Agent is never once boiled down to not liking immigrants, or worse, thinking that the killer has a point. They do shit like that now. Fuck, they would. Nowadays, U.S.Agent would be the killer. They made him a neo-Nazi. An actual neo-Nazi. I wanted to moan about that, but I realised I didn't have to. I've done my video. Everything I ever wanted to say is in that. I managed to say everything I needed to say on the matter before they even did it. Another reason to dislike the double feature setup is that the stories are too short. We have a page limit. And this is early 1990. It's not 1966 anymore. The style of writing has shifted so much that most of it no longer can flourish in the archaic, silly age, split title format. Very little happens in both stories this round. Unused cover A. I'd say it was alright that it went unused because it ain't very good. I am unlikely to recommend any of these issues. I don't really like what the first story did for Hawkeye or to Hawkeye. Not entirely its fault. And the format is broken. It was done because they remembered how great Captain America and Iron Man sharing a title was. They didn't ever make the effort to have both halves of this meet the same sort of standard as what those silly age stories originally met. The U.S.Agent serial is alright. Well, this is nearly always such a disappointing title. 7 thumbs up.